todos los que, digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea... A ver,
¿Por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás...
No,
pero
Boy, that escalated quickly.
If you're on the left, you might have seen this video. This might look a bit familiar for me. This was this was posted this wasn't I think this was posted on, like, I refound it through the what's it called? Through the, I think this is on libertarian memes. But let's let him. Oh, let me disappear myself for a second. Let me so you can really get the whole energy.
Al zurdo de mierda no le podés dar ni un milímetro.
Also, by the way, obviously this is not a perfect translation. Bit of embellishment, I
Todos los que, digamos, los colectivistas, los que ponen, digamos, o sea, esa idea... A ver,
¿por qué le pones de mierda, digamos?
Porque son una mierda. O sea,
vos mezclás...
No,
pero
es que si pensás distinto te van a aniquilar. Ese es el punto. Es decir, vos al zurdo no le podés dar un milímetro, porque le das un milímetro y lo toma para destrozarte. Es decir, o sea, vos no podés negociar con el zurdo. No se negocia. No se negocia con esa mierda, no se negocia porque te van a llevar puesto. Y como estamos siendo tan mejores que ellos, como los estamos aplastando en la batalla cultural, los estamos pasando de arriba, porque no solo le ganamos en lo productivo, somos superiores moralmente, somos superiores estéticamente, somos mejores en todo. Y les duele. Entonces, como no pueden pelear con las herramientas
I'm gonna let this little king go off.
El Estado, poniendo torres de guita para hacernos mierda. Y aún así no pueden, tuvieron que bajar la nota. ¿Me entendés? Que están perdiendo, están desesperados, están perdiendo la batalla cultural, los zurdos de mierda. Por primera vez se ven acorralados los zurdos de mierda.
All right, so that was presidential candidate and primary winner, Javier Milei, libertarian, kind of a bit of a wacky guy, a funny, silly, what's the word I'm looking for? Hyperbolic, just a wild guy. So let's kind of interrogate this a bit. So what is this dude's deal exactly? So Argentina's economy, I'm not an expert, by the way, but Argentina's economy has not been great for the last, I don't know, kind of, we'll say definitely the last 10 years. I'm not sure how far back that goes. But given the high inflation rate in Argentina, along with the staggeringly large amount of the population that lives in poverty, in what is it, Argentina poverty rate? Woof. 39.2% of the population lives in poverty. Let's take a look at this really quickly before we get into it. High inflation pushes poverty rate even higher in Argentina. Buenos Aires, Argentina, one of the world's highest inflation rates, is making it more difficult to make ends meet in Argentina, where at the end of last year, nearly 4 of every 10 people were poor, official figures revealed Thursday. Poverty, when did this posted, by the way? This was in March this year. Poverty increased to 39.2% of the population in the second half of 2022, a 3 percentage point increase from the first 6 months of the year, says Argentina's National Statistics Agency Index. Among children under age 15, the poverty rate increased more than 3 percentage points to 54.2%. In a poor neighborhood in Argentina's capital, those who run a soup kitchen don't need the statistics to tell them, yeah, we know. There's more poverty than before, obviously. People can kind of tell that. After the pandemic, everything got worse. Most have precarious jobs. They don't have fixed employment to say that they're sure about how much they'll make each month. Rosa Guerrera, 76, was one of the people who went to the soup kitchen with their plastic container to get food on a recent afternoon. Quote, "If it weren't for the soup kitchen, what would become of me?" Experts say inflation has hit lower middle class families particularly hard, as the price of food has increased more than other items. If the inflationary question isn't resolved, it will be very difficult to recover purchasing power and lower the poverty level, said Eduardo Donza, a researcher at the Social Debt Observatory at Catholic University in Argentina. Even if inflation were to magically disappear, though, quote, it wouldn't be enough because the poverty level is associated with a very precarious job market. The percentage of Argentina's population considered destitute, those whose income won't even cover basic minimal food needs, decreased slightly to 8.1% from 8.8%. The decline was largely due to the welfare programs, without which the destitution rate would be around 18%. Okay, let's keep that in mind. The welfare programs that they have instituted in Argentina are keeping the destitution rates 10% lower. Obviously, 8% isn't good, but 18% is certainly worse. It's double, more than double, actually. The government's efforts to cool inflation has been made even more difficult by a devastating drought that has increased costs even further. The annual rate of inflation rose above 100% in February. Although the poverty rate has decreased slightly from 42% in the second half of 2020, at the height of the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, it will undoubtedly be one of the main issues in the presidential campaign ahead of October elections. President Alberto Fernandez has still not said whether he will seek re-election. Members of the opposition were quick to criticize the government when the latest poverty figures came out. Quote, more than 18 million Argentinians are poor, former Buenos Aires Governor Maria Eugenia Vidal wrote on Twitter. And you know what the worst part is? This information is already outdated. The situation in 2023 is even more serious. For now, many Argentines don't have much faith that things could improve, even with new leadership. Quote, all the politicians promise, and once they're there, they don't see you and they don't listen to you. Most people here think the same way, just promises they don't fulfill. So, this was kind of the situation heading into the primary win by what's it called? By Milei winning the primary. Sorry, I was reading, lost a bit of track of my sentence there. Buenos Aires, Argentina's right-wing populist presidential candidate Javier. Actually, let's watch the video. I forgot I opened this. Let's watch it. If only there was sound. Where's my sound? Excuse you. Where? Oh, it's okay. There we go. Oh, I knocked this over. Let's just do that.
Even Javier Milei looks like he can't believe it himself. Predicted to take maybe 20, he grabbed more than 30% of the vote. Brash, populist, far right. So are we looking at Argentina's next president after this primary, which is in effect a dress rehearsal for October's general election?
And also keep in mind, he's been compared a lot to Donald Trump. I don't know. I think that's what a little bit of that is why the how the American press is framing him. I'm not sure how really accurate that is. As much as Trump was a populist candidate, there's also a lot to be said that like Donald Trump does not share the class of which the people that are so fervently supportive of him. So it's not I don't know if that's like a fair or even really an accurate comparison. But we might be looking at we could be looking at the next president of Argentina, and a president who is voted in specifically due to a rejection of the current situation and governing philosophy of Argentina's government up till now, and also kind of a rebuke of of the of kind of the order that they're in now, and like you'll see as we keep on kind of reading a little bit, and as we've read a little bit already. There's a lot of people who've lost a lot of faith in their government in Argentina, and because of that, they're willing to take a chance with someone like Milei, somebody who will get into his policies.
Hoy somos la fuerza más votada
porque somos la verdadera
Do I have subtitles? There we go.
After this primary, which is in effect a dress rehearsal for October's general election.
Hoy somos la fuerza más votada porque somos la verdadera oposición.
Today we are the most voted force because we are the true opposition. We are the only ones who want to make a real change. Because remember, a different Argentina is impossible with the same old people who have always failed, with the same old people who have been failing for 100 years.
Now, let's keep in mind. Okay, so that should kind of sound a bit familiar to really anybody in the States, because who is that? What do we hear almost every cycle, right? Is the Republican Party go out there and complain about the other party. What we're like, the thing that I'm kind of looking out for is also like, notice how unpositive all of the campaigning is. Because it doesn't seem like from the outset, and from what I've, we're both, all of us are going to kind of get a bit of an education. I've read I've watched like one longer form video, but that's really about it on this guy. And what you'll notice is he focuses a lot on what he doesn't like and his oppositional approach, in contrast to the more liberal party. And you can kind of see that in his in that video we watched earlier. Nothing in there was substantive. There wasn't anything in there that wasn't just a funny-haired, like, angry man just yelling into the sky. There wasn't anything. There's no policy. There's no vision for the future. It's just not this. And I would say this to everybody. Always be wary of two things: campaigns and candidates, because they are a bit different. But campaigns and candidates that aren't about anything other than a contrast of the other person. And it's mainly because I think in most people's hearts, they want to vote for things. They want to vote for a better vision. They want to vote for a better way forward. But at least on the offset, as far as I can tell so far, there is like, what is Milei offering? What is he offering the people besides rage? And if rage is what you're looking for, I understand that. And there's a theory that he won the primary as a protest vote. He can only really get 30% of the general election, but that was also the case for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump in the United States has a strong, pretty much, I think it's somewhere around 20 to 30%, just a strong base of like 30% of the population will vote for Trump no matter what. So, we're looking at somebody who, again, it's a non-zero chance. It's certainly a non-zero chance. But like, when we look at a candidate like this, it becomes flagrantly obvious, how empty this campaign is, how empty this rhetoric is.
And that's the appeal to voters fed up with both centre-right and left coalitions who for years have delivered economic perma-crisis to this vast country. Finding inflation tough here in the UK? Try living in Argentina. 115% inflation and successive governments delivering a massive, slow-motion fiscal crash. And all of that compounded by the drought earlier this year, which has crippled the agricultural sector. 40% of Argentines.
Oh, by the way, you remember what we said earlier about climate change? That, when I was mentioning, like, we don't need to really talk too much about it. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. We know the answers. These are the communities that are going to be affected first. It's going to happen to places like California, to islands like Hawaii, to countries in the global south. These are going to be places where you're going to see the first really like shocking effects of climate change. But let's all remember, these people got to go somewhere, and we're going to end up seeing climate migration, climate refugees. We are going to end up seeing that, and it is going to be all because at the end of the day, that will end up happening around the world, not because you or I didn't use didn't use our cardboard straws, because we didn't recycle. No, that's going to happen because somebody at the top of ExxonMobil, somebody at the top of Shell, somebody at the top at all of those companies decided they'd like a bigger jet, and to hell with all the people in the rest of these countries, and to hell with all of the communities that they're going to have to attempt to move into because they have no other choice.
Officially below the poverty line. On top of all that, currency controls further enraging hard-pushed voters. So for many, it was just time to punish all that failure. It's simply a punishment vote against this and previous governments, said this voter. Most people are just tired of all the others, he says. They're all the same. This guy's an outsider with something different.
Do you think they can identify what's different besides his rhetoric and like kind of the absurd nature of him as a person? Not really. Was Donald Trump different? No, not really. Donald Trump ran as a populist the same way this guy runs as a populist, and he governed as a centrist. He governed like every other corporate Republican, because at the end of the day, Donald Trump did not win and bring forth a populist people's movement. His movement was for him to become rich and to enrich himself and to stroke his ego.
But let's not get
the
ahead
tax
of
cuts
ourselves.
weren't for
Unlike
all of
Trump
us.
or Bolsonaro, Milei is something of a one-man band. Showman and popular, sure. But in power, without a powerful party elected around him, could he get much done? Even some of his supporters acknowledge that.
It's a concern we voters have, if he's able or not to do all the things he's saying he's going to do. But at the same time, that's what took him to do such a great election.
Perhaps that explains why Milei has been dialing down the rhetoric about abolishing the central bank and the peso in favor of the dollar in recent days. And just 3 points now divide Milei from the two traditional parties. Here's the centre-right, Patricia Bullrich, now their presidential candidate.
I want to thank all the people who chose to have security, to have reasonable taxes, tranquility, certainties, an end to uncertainties, a government that has clear, lasting...
And like, okay, we're listening to this, right? And we all get it. Why everyone just goes, when you hear this. Because, and this is the problem with this woman is center right, but this is also the problem with liberals. Because this is all they have to offer, is maintenance of the current system and the current, what's the word I'm looking for? Status quo. What liberals are looking for isn't change, isn't betterment, isn't, isn't progress, isn't any of those things. What they're looking for is for everything to just stand still for a little bit. Under a liberal, you're not going to get radical change. You're going to get, let's just stop moving. It's why Biden didn't reverse, the corporate tax rate back to where it was before Trump. It's why he's left Jerome Powell still in charge of the Fed. It's why he's done a lot of stuff where like that leaves your head scratching of people who undermine his policy goals and his like stated ambitions. Somebody like Joe Manchin, Biden should have crushed under his boot heel. But did he? No. Because Joe Biden doesn't want to see, and liberals like him don't want to see something shocking like that. That would be a big change to see Joe Manchin smeared across the political floor. That would be, it's shocking to them. But, but they're happy to keep Joe Manchin around. They're happy because they see it as this, I think like this like value that you allow somebody to undermine your goals and to stymie your ability to make progress, because there's some kind, and like, Joe Manchin's threatening to run as a run against Biden or something or other. I've heard a little bit of that, but they see it as a value in and of itself, as a principle, to let these kinds of people continue to succeed in their obstruction. It's very odd. I to this day don't understand it. Like, you have power, use it.
Rules.
For the ruling centre-left, Sergio Massa insisting only they can stabilise the national finances.
Porque estamos seguros que en la Argentina que viene,
because we are sure that in the Argentina of the future, work, production, the defense of our rights and public education have to be unchanging values, values that will not change whoever governs.
All three candidates now go forward to the general election in October.
Oh boy.
Traditional parties knowing there's now a new kid on the block, loud, rude even, and popular.
And, and this is kind of, so from an electoral standpoint, this is also like, to anybody who wants to, talk about, what's the word I'm looking for? Here in the U.S., who like to banty on about third party runs and challenges to Biden. Keep in mind, this is what would happen in the United States. We would get a third, you have your Cornel Wests or whatever. And what they would do, the same way what Milei is going to do, is split the right-wing vote. They're not going to fall behind, two of those people, meaning the liberal will probably do fairly well. There's a good chance that they might pull through, but there's always that, what's the old term? Never be surprised by your enemy's resolve or something like that. But that being said, let's take a look a little bit at this dude's Wikipedia, because I was initially curious, like, again, because I saw him on Reddit, knew it, like in that video I showed you guys in the beginning, and just kind of seemed like a very hyperbolic individual. But this is winning being the third person in a presidential race. I think that's pretty significant. But Javier Milei, Argentinian politician, economist. Since December of 2021, Milei has held the position of national deputy, representing La Libertad Avanza, which he leads. What is this? This is his party, obviously. I'm sorry, Wikipedia, I'm sorry. Stop. Let's see. Far right, libertarian, conservative. Man, look at that fucking face. Right libertarianism, ultra-conservatism. Far-right political coalition originated in Argentina with a conservative to ultra-conservative tendency on social and cultural issues, while supporting economic liberalism and being right-wing being right-wing libertarian on economic issues. As an alliance of right-wing parties, its first electoral participation was at the 2021 Argentine legislative election, obtaining the third place with 17% of the votes in the capital. The coalition is led by economist and national deputy Javier Milei. Excuse me. Which is, 2023 Argentine general election. Ideologically, La Libertad Avanza has been described as ultra-conservative. Let's take a look. A foundation. On July... Oh my goodness. Excuse me. On July 14, 2021, the alliance was formalized in Buenos Aires, where many members' parties are from. Participant in 2021 having Javier Milei and Victoria Villarreal as the main candidates for national deputies, and Ramiro Mara as the Jesus. Can you stop it? Stop opening things. Stop it. Unite the freedom and dignity in a movement of pensioners. Whoa. The coalition was formed by the Integration and Development Movement. Fuck are you? Flying to Venezuela, 1956. Oh, okay. Populist secretly negotiated agreement between his friend. February surprise. President. Foundation early party. Okay. This is kind of a bit curious. Right. Unite for freedom and dignity in the movement of pensioners and youth. In addition, they had supportive parties without legal personality in the district, such as the NOS party of Juan Jose Gomez Centurion, or Milei's Libertarian Party. The fuck is the NOS party? Right-wing political coalition register on 12. Patriotism. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, they're just a group. All right, let's see. Election campaign. No, I want to see what their general election, coalition obtained 313,808 votes for national deputies. National bloc. Let's see, what do we got? Integrated parties, Democratic Party, People's Conservative Party, Unite for Freedom and Dignity. Light blue and white union. Okay. And then provincial, Democratic Party, Integration and Development, Unite for Freedom and Dignity again. Federal Renewal Party, Pensioners and Youth, makes sense. All right. I was kind of curious to see if they had any information on the their slogan, a different Argentina is impossible, but the same as always. Let's put a full stop. Yeah, again, which is like, do you notice they don't describe what different is? It's just different. Like there isn't anything like new about it. Oh, is that because I have yes. You know, it's not in Argentina, like it's just different, which I think is not going to help them in the long run. But let's take a look. Politically, Milei has been variously described as far right, ultra conservative, and right wing libertarian. While he identifies as a monarchist or liberal libertarian, he adheres to the philosophy of anarcho-capitalism regarding okay, economic matters. Regarding economic matters, he aligns with the Austrian school and contends that Argentina is a tax hell. He advocates for a swift reduction in government spending to achieve a balanced budget. He gained widespread recognition through regular television appearances, where he criticized the administration of Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, Mauricio Macri, and Alberto Fernandez, citing what he saw as their rampant spending and a lack of fiscal adjustments as concerns. On social issues such as abortion, Milei expressed opposition to the law that legalized it in 2020 and proposed to hold a referendum about the law he has characterized as a radical conservative. Yeah, good luck with that one, buddy. Milei's political positions have sparked controversy. His opposition to abortion extends to cases of rape. Jesus. Really? Wait. 25. Will this be in English? Can I get an English translation? Hit me with it, boys. Candidate for whom his parents don't exist and the abortion is a property conflict. What the fuck? The self-considered anarcho-capitalist economist assures that the termination of pregnancy under current legal conditions is murder and maintains that the blood link is nothing more than an accident. What the fuck? The candidate for national Buenos Aires, comparing the bond of a mother or baby with, quote, a conflict of property. This position, which he expressed in his debate of the Buenos Aires candidates, was not the first controversy exposed regarding family issues. 3 years ago, he said his parents, quote, don't exist, and that the bond between parents and children, quote, is an accident. The only way I endorse the right to abortion is at the risk of the mother's life because there is a property conflict. Okay, so can we talk about that for a second? So this guy, like, the idea that, like, children are, like keep in mind, this guy thinks people are property. This is like, and it's not, and like, it's not even like it's veiled behind anything. It's just, this is what libertarians see humans as. We are not like, you know, these beings of humanity and like interests and everything. We're just numbers. We're numbers on a spreadsheet to them. This is why I can't really subscribe to a lot of libertarian thought on a lot of stuff. Like, and I don't even know what, like, wouldn't the libertarian position be people choose whatever it is that they want to choose anyway? Like, I've always been under the impression that libertarians also favored, like, freedom. This is not, okay. If someone comes to rob your house, you resort to force. If your life is in danger, that's when property is at risk. It is the same as if a mother is in danger. There, I agree, because there's a conflict of ownership, which would be the body of the mother. Okay. Given the characteristics under which the interpretation is generated today, it is murder, she said at the time, and opposed the abortion case of rape, saying, why is a crime compensated by another crime? What? I agree. When mother is in danger of life, the baby is someone else, resorting to controversial comparisons, saying, if someone comes to rob your house, you resort to force. If your life is in danger, that's when... Do you notice they can't ever come up with a different scenario than having your house robbed? Can we stop with always going to that? It's like the most base level idiotic fucking what's it called? Like analogy, metaphor. That's when property is at risk. It is at the same time as if the mother is in danger. There I agree, because there's conflict of ownership. Given the characteristics under which the interpretation is generated today, it is murder. Why is a crime compensated by another crime? These controversial statements. I don't talk to my parents. I don't call them parents because I don't share the moral or ethical values of either of them. Wait, but wait. Didn't you just say earlier? Oh no, he said it's an accident. Okay. So somebody's got issues. I kind of wonder why he's as boisterous as he is. To me, it's likely they don't exist anymore. To me, they're both dead. My father made me let's see. Moral, ethical values. My father made me 1,001 in my university process. But he went further, quoting former U.S. Secretary of State Kissinger. Lovely. For me, it was a great experience, relationship with his parents. Kissinger says best times are crisis times because the shit goes and the incompetent leave. Those who know and have balls remain. Ah, yeah, definitely a quote. So, yeah. So, let's keep in mind, this is the philosophy that this guy wants for Argentina. Keep in mind. Like, this is the kind of, hard times create strong men, sort of, not strong men create weak times, hard time, or whatever. That whole fucking meme. Okay. Well, that's nice. It's really stellar. It's a stellar way to look at trying to run a nation involved with, like, millions of people. It's only millions of people's lives. They have to, like, suffer then, like, you know. Let's see. Rejects inclusion of comprehensive sex education. I wonder why. Expresses skepticism towards COVID-19 vaccines. I wonder why. Supports civilian firearm ownership. Shocker there. Favors the legalization of organ trade. What? Okay. Promotes the far-right cultural Marxism conspiracy theory. Oh, this is... Okay. Refers to a far-right anti-Semitic... Okay, so the Jews. Gotcha. And engages in climate change denial. Due to those controversies... What's funny is this dude's gonna deny climate change. Deny climate change. Meanwhile, his country is suffering under a fucking extreme drought. Like, the result of climate change is staring you directly in the face, and you're just like, not there. Due to those controversies in his radical conservative economic and social policies, his victory in the primaries was deemed an upset, led by... Okay. Political positions. Milei identifies with anarcho-capitalism and paleo-libertarianism, while being, for practical reasons, a monarchist. I actually don't really have any fucking idea what monarchist means. A night watchman state, or a monarchy, whose proponents are known as... Okay... is a model of the state that is limited and minimal, whose functions depend on libertarian theory. Right libertarians supported only as an enforcer and a non-aggression principle of providing citizens. Oh, wait. Okay, so wait a minute. Right-wing libertarian support and for non-aggression principle by providing citizens with the military, the police, and the courts, thereby protecting them from the aggression, theft, breach of contract, fraud. United States' form of government is mainly associated with libertarian and objectivists. political philosophy. In other countries, monarchists is also advocates. United Kingdom, 19th century, described as Sir Charles Townsend. What? Okay. Depend on libertarian theater, right? Libertarian support only as an enforcer of non-aggression principle by providing citizens with the military. Okay. So, okay. Maybe one day I'll talk to somebody who's a monarchist as well. I'm sure it'll happen. Let's see. He also describes himself as a liberal libertarian. Political commenters categorize his ideological views as a blend of populist right-wing libertarian and conservative strands, along with ultra-libertarian economics. Right-wing populist, yeah, we already know that. He has been described as, yeah. Milei supports former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and former United States President Donald Trump. No shocker there. Both of them fascists. Probably fascist then. Especially their anti-communism and criticism of socialism. And has compared to them for sharing an anti-leftist and anti-social justice platform. When asked about Trump and Bolsonaro, he said, I have a clear agenda which goes against everything that is socialism or communism. Again, like, do I need to really say it? The guy's not really for anything, because, like, from my frame of reference, libertarianism to me, in the ways that I've interacted with it, never really seems to be about very much, except for a rejection of systems and structures and just things you don't like, mostly centered around the state. Most libertarians, from my experience, don't really have a list of things that they want to build society around, or a robust prescription for, you know, societal ills, for the betterment of the, like, whole body politic. It's just, they just don't. I think a lot of it comes down to them thinking that if we all just went back to, living, without the government, and we were all just individuals living in our individual little lives, and we didn't have a government to organize and stuff, like, things would be better, even though I don't even know how any of that would ever work. Like ANCAPs, it's just like, how does any of this work? The minute somebody makes more money is the minute they have overwhelming power over everything, with no ability for any kind of governing body to outweigh them. Is there a court that do you want to settle a land dispute with a large corporation? Well, too bad. They just had a court order signed from a court that they funded and they pay the salaries of. That tells you that you legally need to move off of your land. You got a court, you went to your local court to get a deed to the land or whatever, to say, oh no, this is actually yours. But at the end of the day, they can bear down on you with more court orders, with more litigation, with more everything else, until you have to eventually leave. Like, it's just this stuff is just, let's just let everybody, let's flatten all power levels right now for 1 minute, and then, like, the minute you stack up everybody's bank accounts and their resources, then it's like, no, the government doesn't get involved. We flatten everybody for the first 10 seconds, and then that's it. And it's like, that's no way how to organize society. And that's kind of a lot of it, right? That's like, at least my read on it. A lot of libertarianism is just, I don't want to live in society, which that's fine, but you kind of already do, and you benefit quite a lot from the development of the society we live in. But yeah, his clear agenda is, don't be socialist, don't be communist. But in terms of what we are, it's not really that important. Everyone who is against socialism and communism is on the side I am on. This is my guiding principle. Yeah, again, this is, yeah. Then we can have all the differences you want. In that group, we have liberals, libertarians, people from the center, conservatives, from the center right. But the limit is that no one crosses the limit of social democracy in all expressions further to the left. My alignment with Trump and Bolsonaro is almost natural, in which to say it's almost completely incomprehensible, because it's just a vibes check, I guess. Economist Carlos Quinan also compared him to Marine Le Pen of France's National Rally. Milei maintains close ties with the Spanish far-right party Vox, from which he borrowed the anti-caste rhetoric, as well as the former far-right conservative Chilean president candidate Jose Cast economic views. While theoretically an anarcho-capitalist, Milei identifies in the short term as a monarchist or liberal libertarian. He aligns with economic liberalism and fiscal conservatism, often referencing the economic policies of Carlos Menem, who served as Argentina's president from 1989 to 99, and his economy minister, Domingo Cavallo. He described them as, quote, the best economic government in Argentine history. All right, let's take a look. 89 to 99. Argentina economy, 1989 to 1999. Recession in 95, fallout. All right, let's see. 1980s, let's see. Can I get a international monitor? Structural reforms in the 90s. Ooh. It's coming from the IMF. Okay, let's see. Argentina experienced serious economic and financial difficulties in the 1980s. Hyperinflation in 89 to 90 finally elicited the necessary political consensus for reform. Despite areas of concern, structural reforms implemented in the 1990s has set Argentina on the path to sustained growth. So they had, I don't really want to read the fucking, what's it called? 2002. The Great Depression was at the end of, Jesus Christ. Turbulent history of economic crises. Here we go. Give me routers. This will do. This is from a bit ago, but I think this will, let's see. 89. Democracy returned in Argentina in 83, this time to stay, with the armed forces disgraced by widespread human rights abuses. The loss of the Falklands War, and poor economic management. A vast majority of Argentines deemed the armed forces unfit for power, an opinion that still prevails today. However, that did not mean stability. Under President Raul Alfonsín, public payrolls swelled while government revenues remained stagnant. In 1989, only 30,000 out of 30 million Argentines paid any income tax. Jesus. That year, inflation reached an unprecedented 5,000%, rising so fast that some supermarkets read prices out over intercoms rather than bothering to update price tags. As strikes swept the country and rioters looted supermarkets for food, Alfonsín decided to hand over power 5 months earlier to his elected successor, Carlos Menem. In 2001, Menem spent the 1990s cultivating foreign investments, slashing import tariffs, and privatizing money-losing state enterprises. Inflation fell to single digits, and Argentina was, for a time, hailed as a poster child for free market reforms by the International Monetary Fund and others. By the time Menem left office in 1999, however, rampant corruption was scaring off many investors. Contagion from financial crises in the East Asia and Russia caused capital to rush out of Argentina almost as quickly as it had come in. The currency peg that Menem used to tame inflation became untenable as the government, unable to print money, borrowed it instead. In 2001, unemployment soared beyond 20% and reports surfaced. So, okay, not to be too reductionist, because we are going to look at an article from the American Prospect as well. But it kind of seems like there was this nice little window where, the IMF bailed them out to a degree. And now we're looking at the second that this dude gets out of office in 99, things begin to crumble. Just a little bit. Let's see. The greatest hero, the ideas of freedom. He described them as best economic government in Argentine history. Additionally, he upholds the ideas of Juan Bautista Alberdi and his constitution, and defended Alberto Benejas Lynch as, quote, the greatest hero of the ideas of freedom and the generation of 80 Milei envisions eventually dismantling the state of the central bank of Argentina, which he described as, quote, one of the greatest thieves in the history of mankind, allowing citizens to freely select their monetary system, including the potential adoption of a dollarized economy to combat inflation. He pledged to a sharp cut in government spending. He proposes a sharp... Okay, keep in mind, sharp cuts, if any of those are to the welfare programs that keep destitution down 10%, keep in mind, these are the solutions, is we need to increase destitution by 10%. Propose a sharp economic shock to reduce inflation and the Argentine economy's issues and to pay the country's debt, he said. Central banks are divided in 4 categories. The bad ones, like the Federal Reserve, the very bad ones, like the ones in Latin America, the horrible ones, and the Central Bank of Argentina. Milei supports privatizing state-owned enterprises, including, shale driller YPF, public services like healthcare and education, and roads, and pledged to scrap soy taxes and ditch electric vehicle battery bid as part of his deregulation program. So the roads aren't going to get fixed unless a corporation gets paid. Kids aren't going to get educated unless somebody gets paid. Like at the end of the day, this sounds just like a lot of, all right, look, if we just let a bunch of corporations own our public enterprises, then maybe they'll invest more in the region, but none of that's going to go to regular citizens. Like none of these solutions are going to actually do anything for the regular Argentinian. What the fuck did they get out of, oh, guess what? Your roads are now not going to be maintenance and maintained through your government. Now it's going to be through a corporation, fucking X or whatever the fuck. And they'll get around to it when they decide that it is it is within their bottom line, that it is most advantageous for them to fix your roads. He also articulated his intentions to either shut down, privatize, or redefine the National Scientific and Technical Research Council, while shutting down or merging most governmental ministries, including the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Social Development, and reduce them from 18 to 8. A video of him tearing cards from a wallboard with the names of the ministries that he wants to abolish and toss them into the air went viral. In the video, he says, quote, "The state is not the solution, it is the problem." He is opposed to trade unions, of course he is, and described the Article 14 of the Argentine Constitution, which guarantees labor rights, pensions, and the entire social security system as the country's cancer. He pledged to repeal it upon being elected president. Keep in mind, the social security and the rest of all of that is what's keeping the destitution rates, again, and I'm going to say this a couple times probably, 10% lower than they would be. Milei promises to balance the budget. Argentina has failed to meet targets for cutting its fiscal deficit and building up foreign reserves under its $44 billion arrangement with the IMF, which approved a $7.5 billion loan disbursement. In July of 2023, interview with the Financial Times about this, Milei said that if he is elected, president of Argentina, he would, quote, overshoot all the targets in the IMF deal, calling the fund's spending cuts as small compared to what he says the country needs. About the IMF, which provides Argentina with 22 bailouts, Milei said that, quote, that it, quote, doesn't care about what he described as the country's deep-rooted challenges. He said the IMF are just a bunch of bureaucrats who know that a bank's business is to charge interest. If I'm elected, it will be to solve Argentina's problems. According to his advisor, Dario Epstein, Milei pledges to balance the budget within 3 months. The first thing we have to do is to lower the fiscal deficit by 5 percentage points, which is not at all easy, as Argentina is a very critical situation with 40 to 45% poverty. What we can't do is to fire people from the public sector or lower social spending. That is very important. Milei promotes capitalism, strongly opposes communism and socialism. Yeah, we know. In a TEDx presentation that went viral on social media in 2019, Milei presented, he described as, quote, a love story about capitalism, arguing how capitalism and the free market have lifted people out of poverty. And keep in mind, people always want to cite this like, capitalism has lifted people out of poverty. That is true. It has. It also has left quite a lot of people in destitution and in poverty, because for capitalism to function and for people to actually thrive in capitalism, you need to have people. You need to have people in the bottom rungs. Capitalism does not work when everybody is thriving. There needs to be a class of people who are what's the word? Who are in like lower classes, who are workers, who do not have power. Milei praised some measures of the first government, Carlos Menem, whom he considers, quote, the best president in history, and his economy minister, Domingo Cavallo. In addition to that, he honored a bunch of fucking names. Move on. Milei criticized the judiciary for allegedly persecuting opponents and favoring friends, and his proposed judicial reform includes the appointment of a Supreme Court judge who he says would be a feral defender of the ideas of Albert. So again, notice that like his issue is that there's a persecution within the judiciary, but like his solution isn't to reform the judiciary. It's just to put people with his proclivities in those places. He questions the government's policies applied by the Radical Civic Union, the Justice Salvo, that one. While Milei publicly expressed that he is not a defender of the last Argentine military dictatorship, the national reorganization process, and the dirty war, he has questioned the dirty war's 30,000 disappeared toll. Oh yeah, so he's like, okay. More than Karl Marx, Milei's greatest enemy is John Keynes. He argues that the only time that pure liberalism was applied was in the 1860s, and we were a prosperous country. Nice. So, we've already kind of seen a little bit of the IMF has been mentioned here, mainly because they are who, has been supplying Argentina with funds. Let's take a look from an article from the American Prospect from, when did this go up? This went up over the weekend, didn't it? No, not quite the weekend. Just before the election, I should say. So, Argentina. Vultures come home to roost. Oh, we can actually listen to this? Should we listen to it? Ooh, let's listen to it.
Argentina. Vultures come home to roost. Today on tap, how America's most predatory hedge funds deepened Argentina's economic miseries and helped invite a far-right reaction. On Sunday, a neo-fascist candidate named Javier Milei, in the mold of Donald Trump and Jair Bolsonaro, shocked the political establishment by placing first in the preliminary round of Argentina's presidential elections.
Sorry. I think I said this past weekend. It was last weekend, I guess. Yeah, because this article went up, August 16th. So that would have been last weekend? Yes. Okay, just making sure, yeah. The election was on the 13th.
Reasons for popular frustration are not hard to discern. Argentina's inflation rate has been running in excess of 113%. The real, black market rate of the peso against the dollar keeps plummeting. After Sunday's surprise result, the central bank raised the key interest rate from 97 to 118%. This is in a country that was once among the world's wealthiest, and now has a poverty rate of around 40%. The political center, not surprisingly, has lost legitimacy. The Peronists, once a left populist outsider party, have been the governing party for much of the recent past, and are now seen as hopelessly part of the discredited establishment. In Sunday's election, the Peronist candidate, Sergio Massa, placed third. The center-right candidate, representing the mainstream opposition, came in second. It's not as if Milei has a realistically radical program to cure Argentina's ills. Like other neo-fascists, he stands for a spasm of nihilism. A one-time tantric sex coach, Milei would abolish Argentina's public health and education systems, shut down the central bank, and use the US dollar as national currency.
Jesus.
While Argentina has itself to blame for some of its woes, the international financial system, including the IMF and US-based hedge funds, share the blame. Argentina has oscillated between running up foreign debt, and then succumbing to IMF-enforced austerity programs to pay off or write off debt. None of this has rescued its economy, but it has enriched speculators. Some US-based hedge funds, notably Paul Singer's Elliott Investment Management, bought distressed Argentine bonds at about 1/6 of their face value over a 15-year period. When creditors came together to negotiate a settlement at so many cents on the dollar, Singer was the holdout. In 2001, after Argentina defaulted on $131 billion of debt, 93% of the country's creditors, in 2 restructurings, agreed to take 30 cents on the dollar. But Elliott held out for a sweeter deal. In the final settlement in 2016, Elliott netted billions at Argentina's expense.
And let's keep in mind, okay, so that being said, is this the person that you think is going to stand up to some hedge fund like that? Is this guy interested in dismantling or discrediting that system of predatory capitalism? No, he simply isn't. Do you notice that these aren't the things that Milei is actually interested in challenging? His problems are with federal spending on programs that keep the poverty and destitution rates down. His issues are primarily, it seems, with I mean, like, as part of it is this like weird obsession with socialism, but like certainly his issues aren't with like rampant capitalism and the kind of speculative nature that the IMF and hedge funds in the U.S. are engaging in. None of this isn't his solutions to all of those. Are pay them and move. Are pay them, and whoever's left, whoever's still around in Argentina after you've paid all of the debts. After you've paid all of the debts, after you've slashed all of the taxes, all of the programs, now people, inflation's taken care of, but now people don't have jobs. Now people don't have programs to keep them from falling into worse poverty. Like it's just all of the things that it seems like he would recommend or policies that he would actually champion would certainly help the economy. Would certainly help the would certainly like fix their debt crisis, would certainly fix their inflation rate, but wouldn't actually do anything for the people of Argentina. They'd be all left on their own, because the only thing that got fixed was the economic numbers side of it, but you didn't fix the underlying issues with people being able to afford food, people having access to programs. Like they're like, this would just leave more people in poverty, more people like in debt. Like, sure, you would have the upper classes probably be fine as they always are. Maybe you have the middle class holdout, maybe, but like anybody who's in the lower classes, which by the way is now 45%, they're done. It's over. There aren't programs to keep them afloat anymore. You would leave them to drown. You would lose, a huge percentage of the population to this kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, the only thing you're interested in with all of those policies that we've seen so far are just, it's a bunch of austerity. All he wants to impose is a different kind of austerity, but austerity nonetheless, and austerity hasn't worked for Argentina.
For World War II, banks that invested in the debt of South American countries, often at inflated interest rates and profits, knew that they were taking a risk. When nations defaulted on the bonds, as they often did, the creditors lost everything. But there was so much money to be made that bankers soon were offering more loans. The International Monetary Fund was created after World War II to help debtor nations refinance debt and avoid crippling austerity. But by the 1970s, the IMF had mutated into the agent of creditors, with the help of U.S. courts and U.S. bankruptcy law. There is a horrific double standard in the use of bankruptcy. Large corporations are able to use bankruptcy to shed their debts, while the same management that incurred massive losses is often able to keep control. But households and student debtors who try to use the bankruptcy process face total economic ruin. Countries are precluded from using bankruptcy to shed debts altogether. We need a massive reform of the one-sided bankruptcy laws, an end to the favorable tax and regulatory treatment of hedge funds and private equity firms, and a restoration of the role of the IMF as it was created at Bretton Woods in 19...
And keep in mind, this is like, those are actual policy prescriptions. Those are actual solutions to these problems. The underlying issues that Argentina is running into is their debt problem. And part of that comes from the fact that they've basically been, they've been on the line with, with these sorts of, with the IMF and with fucking U.S. creditors. Like, at the end of the day, this is the problem that they're running into. Like, obviously, the drought is having, and this isn't like this isn't every single problem, but like, when you have this kind of historic drought in Argentina, right? There isn't, your creditors, the same way if you're renting an apartment and you lose your job or you get sick and you have to pay a bunch of bills, but you can't, which makes it harder to pay rent. The same way your landlord doesn't really care about your personal situation. Oh, you got fired? Well, you still owe me rent at the end of the month. Is the exact same way the IMF and all the rest of these, speculators all view the economies of countries that they invest in. And when it all falls apart, they sit back and they go, okay, well, we'll write you up a plan so you can pay us back. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to make your industries available for our investment. You're going to make your resources available for our ownership. You're going to make your governmental system friendly to our interests. You are going to end up being, when you join the IMF, when you take money from the IMF or any of these other creditors, at the end of the day, you are agreeing to their terms. And Argentina's done this, it seems like, for over the last, we'll say 30 years, we'll say. And because of that kind of risk-taking and, voluntary predatory nature, because of that, that's why you're seeing all of these issues. Not because, Argentina spends too much money on its citizens. No, Argentina does spend a lot of money on its citizens, and that keeps them out of destitution. At the end of the day, those are programs by and for the people of Argentina. And those are the ones that Javier Milei wants to get rid of. He wants to get rid of your programs that keep food on your table, that keep you out of the worst possible cases of your situations. And instead, he would like to turn it over to chaos. And if you know anything about chaos, and I'm sure maybe if you watch Game of Thrones, chaos is a ladder. And there are people who are going to benefit from the chaos in Argentina if Javier Milei were to make it to ascend to the presidency. There are people who will know too well what to do the minute that, these sorts of structures, the minute that the kind of social security that they offer their citizens is taken from them. The thing that they tell, at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to click on one of these things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.